Hello, everybody. Happy Friday to you out there. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. We have a wedding planner breaking down how much they think the Maddie Prewett Grant Troutt wedding cost. We'll get into that in a second. Follow me on Instagram for stand-up comedy show dates at DNeals. I'll be in New York City in a couple of weeks. I have a show coming to Newport, Rhode Island, and also maybe Cincinnati. Okay, so go check that out at DNeals, and also patreon.com/Dave Neal for behind-the-scenes bonus content to donate. Got your Friday paycheck, go over there. I pay my taxes, patreon.com/Dave Neal. That's going to be pertinent to this story. We're going to go places with this story. Don't get me wrong. So we will discuss what this wedding planner has to say about the Maddie wedding in a second. I want to thank you guys for the first week of the podcast. 243 5-star ratings on Apple Podcasts, another 100+ ratings on Spotify. Bachelor Rush Hour with Dave Neal is every afternoon, 5 p.m. East Coast. You can get it actually before then. I usually release it at a couple hours before then, and it's your afternoon rush hour ride. So many great comments from all the people that are rating it. I appreciate you guys so much. You won't find anyone who works harder than Dave Neal, and you won't find an audience that's more loyal than you guys. I appreciate you so much. We're number 2 on the charts in U.S. entertainment news, and number 73. We've risen in the charts. He has risen. The podcaster has risen. Jesus would have been a good podcaster, right? You know, Sunday Mass, just download it while you do some laundry. Wash those white linens. So anyway, I'm 73 in news. Okay, let's get into it. Oh, by the way, check this out. Chicago couple sent $240 invoice to wedding guests who did not turn up for their wedding. But I want to be friends with these people. Oh yeah, you said you were going to come and you didn't? Here, you got to pay the bill. Love it. All right, I'm sure everyone showed up to Maddie's wedding. They had 400 guests. Let's hear what this wedding planner had to say about the cost.
From the Bachelor got married recently, and she had a pretty extravagant wedding, and we are going to tell you how much it costed. Maddie and her now husband were married in Dallas, Texas, but we are going to give you prices based
Did she say how much it costed?
In New York City. So prices might be a little different than what they actually paid.
Okay, so this is her thoughts based on a New York City wedding, which you would assume would cost more, but Maddie's wedding was planned in only several months, so I'm sure the cost of planning a wedding quickly definitely has probably a 20 to 50% upcharge when you're trying, you know, these linen sheets don't just come out of nowhere.
This is what it would cost to recreate this wedding in the New York City area. They had their wedding at a private estate, so they had to bring in absolutely everything. This is a great aerial view of everything that they had to bring in.
Wow.
And this is a great aerial view of their ceremony. Let's start with the tent and all of the structure. This tent structure alone would have costed about $100,000.
Costed?
Then all of the production that goes into the tent would be another $100,000. We're talking all of the structure that you need to hang all this lighting, to hang this giant floral installation, all the sound for the band, the dance floor, everything. For the actual rentals, we're talking the tables and the chairs for 350 guests, as well as their specialty lounge furniture that they had. All of that would be another 70 grand. For specialty rentals, that is the fancy china, fancy cups, fancy utensils, fancy linens, fancy napkins. That's another $35,000. For catering and staff for this event, we are looking at about $500 per person for 350 people for luxury food, luxury alcohol, and that's going to be about $175,000. Florals, there were florals everywhere. Crazy centerpieces and decor on each of the tables. This was their ceremony. This was their dance floor. For all these florals, we're estimating about $75,000.
Now, this is where people have said, no, that's $250,000 worth of florals. You can't just buy a rose. You got to go find these things. You know what I mean? Like they probably had a source from hundreds of, no, these came from all over. There's no way. Leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. By the way, cost or costed is the past tense form of the verb cost. American and British English prefer cost as the simple past tense. The verb means the amount of, okay, so anyway, so I'm sorry for correcting her. Costed is also right.
And there was this cake. For that size cake.
That cake, we're calling it the Stairway to Gluten.
That design, that would be about $15,000. For photo, we're estimating about $25,000 for the entire day, and video about $15,000. They had a very big band, and we are estimating that was about $35,000. Okay. They did have a lot of custom stationery for 350 guests, and that would total to be about $20,000. Transportation for all these guests, about $15,000.
So they didn't use Jacob's Lyft code to get everyone there?
Security at this private estate for 20 security people, we're talking about $10,000. Ceremony musicians, probably about $5,000. Hair and makeup for about 10 people with a very high-end makeup and hair artist, about $7,000.
How much for the added eyelashes? Where they have to source those from tarantula legs in the Maldives?
I did have a live painter, and that would be about $3,000. And the planner would charge a pretty high percentage of the total budget of this wedding. If they charge 20% of the total spend, the planner would be about $150,000.
Easy.
They're very high-end luxury prices for this wedding, but this was a high-end luxury wedding. Overall, the cost to recreate this wedding in the New York area for 350 guests at a high-end level, you're talking about $800,000.
800 grand. Now, I don't know if she, and thank you so much for this TikTok here there. I don't know if she's factoring in that it was planned in under 3 months. I mean, doesn't that double the price for everything when you need to get something done like that? There's literally weddings that they probably had to like yank chairs out of, to just like, oh yeah, I hope you, there's some weddings getting ready to cut their cake and like, no, we need that for Maddie's cake. They just like cut, move the cake. All right. Anyway, so I've been talking a lot about taxing the rich. I've been talking a lot about how like, how I believe our country needs to get to a place where we all have sort of a fighting shot here. We live in this generation where like our generation right now will be the first generation that makes less than its previous generation. So we're actually going backwards with how we evolve as humans. Not just there, we're actually like not even living as long. The last like 3, 4, 5 years, the lifespan has gone backwards, and it's not looking good. I call it late stage capitalism because it's just the idea that we're like automating everything from fast food to basically everything. It's cutting out the middle class. The people that are on the forefront of the automation are the ones that are like reaping all the rewards. Like how many people have jobs where they're doing like 4 people's jobs because of automation? And it's like, are you getting paid 4 times as much? You know what I mean? That type of thing. So I got a comment from a longtime listener, and I want to read it to you guys. No judgment based on the commenter, but I want to show you that how people sort of use control to try to get me to act a certain way. And I have to be authentic to you guys and speak my truth, or else I'd be a hack if I was trying to pander to people who think a different way. Hi, Dave. You're the first person I've ever DM'd. I followed you since your SAP days. You read my email to you on episode 143. I think on that email I said, keep doing your Bachelor recaps. I'm glad you have, and that your hustle and humor and hard work have led you to your success. Congrats to you and Tasha on your wedding. Okay, so all of the compliments that start off, I appreciate that. It looked magical. I've watched a couple of recent YouTube videos, and I find it very off-putting that you are making political jokes and commentary. I've always found you to be fair and balanced and not political. I would assume some part of your following agrees. If you continue to make political commentary, I'll sadly have to stop watching you. Fondly, a longtime listener and supporter. And I responded fondly, and we had a fine conversation. So respect to this commenter, but I can't be swayed based on what somebody wants me to be or to do. So I might lose a couple. We call that cracking eggs to make an omelet. You might lose a couple people in support of your truth. There might be a reason why my channel has a hard time hitting the 100,000 subscriber mark, because my channel can be divisive in a sense that some people don't want to hear my opinions on things outside of Bachelor Nation. I have never pledged to have a channel that only discusses Bachelor Nation in some sort of little, insulated bubble. That's not the world we live in, So I'm going to continue to saying what I want to say, and people can try to consume whatever content they want to consume. My challenge to people that disagree with me is to just hear me out. Just hear me out. That's my challenge to you guys. Can we live in a world where we can hear different opinions? And how many people that have commented when I've talked about how the rich don't pay enough? It's mind-blowing. I mean, I have people that literally, we're talking about maternity leave, and saying how we need a better, more robust system for young moms, and also for people to go on leave that have had miscarriages and leaves for other reasons, bereavement. We need to take care of each other better. Some people call this a social safety net. But when you say the word social, people get triggered like we're going to live in some Stalin-era world. The executive worker pay gap keeps getting bigger as CEOs racking an average of $27.8 million a year. So this, to one commenter who told me they think the rich should deserve all their wealth and they already pay more. I look at it this way. Just hear me out, folks. It'd be like if all of the rainfall went straight to Alabama. Imagine if all of the rain went to Alabama, and then Alabama gave 10% of the rain to all the other states. And it's like, thank you so much, but we don't have enough. We need more. And even though Alabama gave 10% of the rain, they only need 10% for themselves. So there's 80% of their rain, their wealth, it's just being saved in these sort of vaults where they're keeping all their rainwater. And then people from Kansas who are they're so thirsty, they're barely surviving. They say, you know what? It's okay. They've given us more than any other state. Minnesota doesn't give us any rain. Alabama gives us all the rain. They've given us enough. And it's like, why, Kansas? You're starving. Ask for more. There's plenty to go around. So that's my point, is that billionaires shouldn't exist. There's plenty to go around, and most don't even pay their fair share in taxes. Billionaires pay an average federal income tax rate of just 8.2%. So most people, like my tax bracket, I pay somewhere in the 30s to 40% tax. That's where I pay between state and federal tax, and I pay my fair share. Got an accountant, all that jazz. Cover yourself. And the more money you have, the more you can throw money in different accounts. Use it to build loss leaders. You can do so much with it that gets your tax rate down to 8%. How about we all just pay a standard 15% or something like that? It would double what the billionaires pay, but are you telling me that it's not enough for them to keep 85% of their billions? You know what I mean? So to all the people that are out there, and they've told me, hey, Dave, I make $50,000 a year. Okay, that's fine. That's like smack dab middle class, maybe slightly lower middle class, right? Quit defending the rich. Quit defending them because they don't have your backs, Anyway, so we talk some more about this. Everyone's worried about this army that exists of the 80,000 new IRS agents that are coming, including my own parents. They think that they're going to be targeted, this and that. They're going to be knocking on doors to take people's guns. It's just to replace all the retiring baby boomers. And anyway, so there's so many different levels that are blowing my mind with how we're dealing with the rich, not paying their fair share. And yet we find all these people defending them. It's not left versus right. It's not political. It's socioeconomic. Okay. So political would mean like, oh, the Republicans are this, the Democrats are that. They've got you convinced it's that way. It's really a class system issue, okay? It's a bunch of people in the middle class defending billionaires when the billionaires don't have your back, folks. They don't have your back, okay? So anyway, we have Kenny Troutt. This is Maddie's husband, Grant's father. He seems like a good guy, and he made his wealth from a blue-collar place. So he might not be the best example of billionaires, but he sells his company, and he's kind of just one of those lucky guys that creates a telecommunications company in the perfect time before the dot-com bubble, sells it for several $billion, is able to invest that money, and now he's worth so much more just because he had that sort of equity and was able to invest in a time where his net worth just, grew. He's ranked 1,200th richest person in the world. That was in 2014, so he's probably gained a lot since then. But it's where he puts his money that a lot of people have a problem with. Supporting major Republican, leaders like Rick Santorum, Rick Perry, Mitch McConnell, Greg Abbott. So the fact that someone can be worth so much money that they can influence a political leader that governs their state, that's just kind of problematic. We need to take money out of politics, which is a separate issue because it's not just the right that donates to, that has lobbyists that donate for their causes. It's the left too. It's a rich versus middle class. And again, now this will trigger a lot of people on the left saying, but the right is worse. Well, we need to stop finger pointing on who's worse and just start doing something to vote for people. And I say this because the elections are coming up in a couple of days. So do your due diligence to vote for people that don't take money from problematic organizations, from dark, money groups that don't report where their money's coming from. Because trust me, it's not to support the middle class. It's not. It's to support the big industry. The gun industry. It's to support the big oil and the other companies that want to have a stranglehold onto all of their wealth and not be taxed at a certain rate. So anyway, if anyone wants to get a job at Kenny Trout's Windstar Farm in Versailles, Kentucky, in France it's Versailles. I think they pronounce it Versailles. Either way. It should be pronounced Versailles. $12.96 an hour. You can clean up shit and You want to clean up Kenny's horse's shit, you can do it for $13 an hour. Anyway, Lisa and Kenny Troutt have a nice home. So I don't know if this was the estate where they actually had the wedding at. $17.4 million. The founder of Excel Communications. Horse racing's more fun than telecommunications. Yeah, he created a company. He sold it. I have no idea what he pays for taxes, but it is ironic that he's allergic to horsehair. Now he has a horse company. Here's his house right there. So you know how it is. Man, let me tell you something. You know how it is, right? Because we can all relate as billionaires here. You know how it is when you like fall asleep on the couch watching Netflix on your 80-inch, just imagine you're tired. You've had a long day of managing all the horses, and then you're watching Netflix, but you fall asleep. But you have to remember, you're on the estate. Your bedroom's up here near Harry's Lane, right? Your bedroom's up here on the north side of the estate. So you have to walk all the way back to your bedroom because your toothbrush is attached to the master bathroom here. And it's like, come on. And then sometimes at night, it feels kind of haunted. It can be kind of painful out there. So I've talked a lot about grifting. Again, I don't know if the Troutts are a good example of this. I don't know. I do know that he spends, $3 million a year on his son's, They have a $3 million budget for his son's basketball teams. So are they paying their fair share in taxes? I don't know, guys. I can't look into it. A lot of times billionaires, if you don't know this, make it very complicated to know where they're putting their money. But they're voting for people and putting money into people that are taking away what I believe to be basic human rights, body autonomy. Now there's laws in Texas that you can just buy a gun. Leave a comment, right? I don't know, guys. It seems a little shady to me. And it's not a problem with religion whatsoever. It's a problem with the people who use religion and faith to finance their own sort of lifestyle. You guys familiar with Kenneth Copeland? Of course you are.
In luxury, how much money did you pay for Tyler Perry's Gulfstream jet, for example?
Well, for example, that's really none of your business.
So I love the first. How much money did you pay? They're saying roughly $54 million. And he said he paid $54 million because it helps him get to do more preaching, which, there's a point to be made there, I guess.
I mean, my wife thinks Inside Edition is, oh, yeah. Now, thank you, Lord. Help me. Let me pray this thing.
Well,
Okay, so he tries to pray when she asks him some tough questions, which is fine. God's not going to save you here. God's actually enjoying that you're, that since you've used him to reap millions, that, selling. I'm not calling it snake oil. I just think like he's this is just an example of these televangelist pastors not having their people's best needs at hand. He's living a lifestyle that he can afford off of the backs of others.
Do you ever use your private jets to go visit your vacation homes, for example?
Yes, I do.
Who doesn't?
Again, getting back to the comment, you said that you don't like to fly commercial because you don't want to get into a tube with a bunch of demons. Do you really believe that human beings are demons?
No, I do not. And don't you
But the ones who travel on Spirit Airlines are.
ever say I did.
Look, and okay, so I'm not saying Kenny Trout's this. I'm not saying Maddie Pruitt Troutt, whatever her name is. I'm not saying she's that way either. But what I am saying is when you start working in a world where you're influencing and kind of like preaching a certain lifestyle, that's where you start to look closer and you start to go, okay, let's just keep an eye on this. Is it the lifestyle that you pray to God because you want to give and you want to spread love? That's okay. That's totally fine. But is it how to tell people what to do with their bodies because a book which has been translated, and again, every time I make these videos, I get 15 comments from different people with Bible verses. The book has been translated a bunch of times to say homosexuals are sinners. God hates this. No. It's all hogwash, guys. It's all been translated to control you. We need to shine some light on the dark places. We can pray to God. You can pray to Jesus. You can go to Sunday Mass or whatever you do. You can do that. But people like this are a fraud.
Associated Press said that Joe Biden is president.
I feel bad for this one guy. I feel bad for this guy right here because I think he's like, I don't want to be here. My mom invited me to her mass and I'm sitting in the front row. Anyway, the point is that when we talk about paying your fair share in taxes, is churches have a tax write-off. They don't, churches are tax exempt, I should say, right? They don't have to pay. And churches are including Scientology, who's been known to harass IRS agents to the point where they've received their tax exemption status. And now we have churches telling people how to vote. And whenever churches dive into political leanings, they should lose their tax exemption. And I do believe if your church is doing that, you can actually report them so they'll lose their tax exemption, because God doesn't need to be involved in the political system. God should be involved in the system that helps the poor, right? Wasn't Jesus all about giving to the poor, bathing them, feeding them? Shouldn't we be doing that too? We live in a country where people live in cities that don't have good, clean drinking water, that they don't have the right to a home with heat. Child poverty exists out there. Get it together, guys. Let me know what you guys think. And I hope everyone goes out and votes this coming week.